unfortunately, what had happened was that U.S. enrichment capacity got squeezed out of the marketplace, really by prices. And we haven't launched the construction of a meaningful amount of nuclear capacity for decades. So we've sort of, most of our enriched uranium material for commercial reactors comes from overseas. Now we've got a bunch of small modular reactor companies, some really exciting new technologies. We've got, with an outlook for significant growth in demand for new electricity in the United States, there's interest in building large reactors again, despite the cost overruns at Vogtle. The last ones were built at less cost than the first unit at Vogtle. So I think we would like to see a renaissance of nuclear. Now I know the renaissance of nuclear has been talked about for a long time. I think the conditions are there, and the administration is going to do everything we can to lean in to help commercial businesses and customers launch nuclear. We are offering up land in Department of Energy facilities for people that want to build things. We're making it easier to test reactors at a demonstration site at the Idaho National Labs. We recently announced supplying HALEU fuel, which is, instead of enriched in that 3 to 5% in a typical light water reactor, it's 20% enriched uranium for next generation reactors. We announced delivering that fuel to 5 of these next generation reactor companies. We're also using the Loan Program Office in situations where, for example, hyperscalers so want to see new electric and nuclear generation capacity, they'll put up large chunks of equity money to help, because utilities don't have the balance sheets or the risk tolerance to build nuclear power plants. But if you can have offtake customers that are well capitalized, put up a large amount of equity together with the developers to secure a execution of these projects, LPO office will come in with debt that makes the capital stack work so we can get plants built. Once they get built, contract financing will take out the LPO debt and we can recycle that into other projects. I'd like to not get in the position we're in, for example, with wind power, where the tax subsidies came in 32 years ago and they're still here today. You put subsidies into tax credits, they tend to be very sticky. So what we're doing at the Department of Energy is specific deals that are going to hopefully launch the first 5, 7, 8, 10, 20 reactors, and let's get this industry going again. Then we'll get supply chain efficiencies and volume, costs will come down, and I think it should fly very well as a commercial industry. I celebrate that. The goal of the president is to get all of the nations of the world equally welcoming to American exports as we've been to their exports. That's a grow trade agenda. The other piece of the president's agenda is to try to find the right incentives to reshore manufacturing in the United States. Over the last 25 years, a lot of energy-intensive manufacturing has left the United States. Well, we can buy it cheaper from Asia, people said, so no big deal. But those jobs, in large-scale industrial jobs and energy-intensive manufacturing, they tend to be blue-collar, they're often concentrated in rural areas. This is just the demographic that's had a rough ride in the last 30 years. You lived in an urban area and you're highly educated, boy, it's been a great few decades. I've been very lucky in my life. But if you grew up in a rural area or a less thriving community and didn't get the same educational opportunity as the rest of us, your economic opportunities have actually gotten worse. The president is deeply committed to make the economic opportunities better for those people, and so he wants an agenda that makes it compelling to invest in the United States and put those jobs here. And the last thing, as an energy nerd, can I repeat? Of course. So manufacturing, people, when we think about energy, people either talk about the electricity grid or they talk about automobiles. And of course, those are important and real uses of energy, and I love the electricity grid. But the energy delivered on the electricity grid to end users represents 20% of total global energy. People think it's like the same thing. It's a piece, it's a sliver. We use about a quarter of energy for transportation. But the biggest use of energy by far is manufacturing, making things. And you can't make an automobile or a building or an internet or an airplane without materials. We spend 20% of all global energy just to make cement, steel, plastics, and fertilizer. The 4 pillars of the modern world. 20% of energy just to make those 4. We use over 40% of global energy just to make things. Aluminum and other metals and polysilicon and all these materials. This is the base of which everything else is made of. So It's over 40% globally. In the United States, we consume 25 exajoules of energy for manufacturing out of 100 exajoules total. So only 25% of our energy is used for manufacturing, and that's because so much of it's been outsourced. China consumes 70 exajoules for manufacturing. So you can see where most of the industry that's left Europe and the United States has gone to China and elsewhere in Asia. So the president's agenda is, let's bring some of that manufacturing back to the United States. Let's bring those jobs. Let's bring that economic security. We have the most advantageous energy system on the planet here.